All About Eve.
Yeah.
Which is another movie.
Weirdly has a lot of crossover with this movie.
A lot of crossover.
Yeah.
Both of these movies, I think, are primarily about what showbiz does to women who get older.
Yes.
Where All About Eve is almost like a bit more of a, perverse version of that because she's just like 40 in the movie, right?
That's what I mean. Like, Gloria Swanson, I think, was in her 50s when this movie came out.
Mm-hmm.
Which, right now, you're like, all right, fine. Like, that's not that old. I don't think
it's still
of it
a problem in Hollywood,
right? No,
right?
For
like,
sure.
That's the thing is, it's like these movies were made 75 years ago.
Yeah.
But like,
also, I mean, yeah, people aged quicker.
It's from going to the mines and all that.
Yeah, exactly. But everyone smoked. It was just like.
But it's not just that. It's like there's all these charts that you can look at right now of like leading men with their romantic interests.
Yes.
The romantic, the people who were supposed to play their love interest.
Yeah.
And like the kind of age gap and like how the men in Hollywood are allowed to keep getting older and the women just kind of top out at 40 basically, and like you have like 75-year-olds with like a 38-year-old love interest or whatever. It's like these movies are speaking to something that still exists. It's not like the problem ever really got fixed.
No, never did. Yeah. Still, I mean, it's probably
this just
maybe
in, sexism still exists.
Marginally maybe less of a problem than it was in 1950. Because I certainly don't think of someone who's in their 50s as like ancient, but like I'm sure a lot of casting directors do.
Sure. I mean, I think Meryl Streep is somebody who is almost kind of notable for being someone who was able to allowed to age like a woman who was allowed to age in Hollywood.
I think All About Eve is a little less. What was her name? Margot Channing, I think, is certainly much less monstrous.
Yeah, I think these are two different perspectives on it.
Yeah, like I think Sunset Boulevard is like taking that idea and like running really far in one direction with it. Whereas this is, I think All About Eve is a much more sort of like nuanced, sort of grounded approach to that same concept.
Sunset Boulevard is heightened melodrama a la silent films. All About Eve is a kind of more grounded sort of thing, with more sort of human and less insane and grandiose sort of stuff going on.
Yeah, like Margot Channing she acknowledges that she is aging, and she is aging out of the kind of roles that she is kind of known for playing on stage. But she's still working. She's still in play. She's still a celebrated actor who's like selling out shows, headlining.
I mean, All About Eve, and like, Margot Channing's role, like situation in it is like almost a woman who is at.
They almost have like
she's at a crossroads.
Yes.
That like it's her at the crossroads where she can kind of go in the direction of Gloria Swanson in Sunset Boulevard, or she can choose a different way. Right.
Norma Desmond has already gone through the crossroads and stuck firmly to, no, I will remain young forever.
Yeah.
Because I am a vampire. Whereas, Margot is sort of at that crossroads in this movie, and by the end of it decides, I'm just not going to play the same characters anymore. I'm going to.
But she struggles with it.
Of course.
She struggles with it because it's.
Yeah, they're like
because
opposing, like the characters take like opposing paths.
Yeah. She struggles with it. I mean, I think it's interesting putting her at the crossroads because she's having to directly during the movie grapple with the types of things that we're kind of picking up from subtext in Sunset Boulevard. She's having to confront not just like her as an individual aging, but like her relationship as a woman to the industry that she's in while aging. Yeah. Which is a whole other can of worms. And that's Betty Davis, another kind of, Betty Davis I think was 43 when she played this. But like it's another role that's like, it's like it's another thing that almost like you are an actor who is well known and is getting older and like if you're playing if you're an actor playing an actor,
It's going to be self-referential to some degree. There's
Yeah.
going to be some
I'm just
level
a
of
dude playing another dude.
yeah.
Yeah,
I think that
but it, like,
All
it's
About-
gonna reach into your soul.
I think
a
All
little
About
bit,
Eve
you know?
doesn't feel as like directly metatextual as
No,
Sunset
no,
Boulevard.
definitely not.
is.
Especially because All About Eve is about Broadway and not about
Right.
Hollywood.
This isn't a play about acting. It's a movie.
Although it used to be a play.
Yeah, which I think kind of it isn't necessarily a
Or,
show, but it's
I
like
guess it became a play. Never mind.
yeah, like I think All About Eve is a very good movie. It feels very writerly to me
Mm-hmm.
in that it is very well written, but it is like all of the emphasis of this story is on like writing and performance.
Yeah.
Which is not to say the movie is like badly directed or doesn't look good or anything, but it's like compared to I think a lot of the other movies that we watched for this year, it feels the most stage adjacent.
Yeah.
Which
yeah.
also maybe it's about Broadway, so it makes sense. So right, All About Eve opens with this like big, fancy awards ceremony for a young actress named Eve who's getting this like very prestigious acting award, and then we flash back indeterminate amount of time to Eve being someone who's like waiting outside the stage door of a theater, who's just like, who, me? I just want to see the actors. And Karen, who's married to the playwright who's written this big Broadway smash, is like, you're here literally every night, come inside.
Yeah.
Like no one else is hanging out here after every single show.
Yeah.
And she's like, well, I don't want to be an imposition, I don't want to bother anybody. She's like, come on, just like come backstage. And she like meets everyone.
What a mistake.
Yeah, he meets everyone and is like, very like sheepish, and they're all like, no, like tell us your story. And she gives this very heartbreaking story of having been married, but her husband was a pilot in World War II and so died, and she was kind of left with nothing, and then just started seeing Margot on the stage and like became so kind of enamored with the power of her performance that she's just been following this show from San Francisco to New York, and has gone to every single performance, and is just like the biggest fan. And they're all like, cool, like, you want to hang out?
And at first, like, Margot sort of has like like her guard up a little bit. She's just like, oh, fan, like I don't want to talk to that person,
But it is like,
But
after she hears this story, everyone is like, oh man. Not only I think that they feel bad for her, but they're like, oh, she's a genuine person. She's not just like
little do they know.
Yeah. Right. And so then like pretty quickly, Margot sort of like lets Eve into her life just as her sort of like assistant.
Mm-hmm.
She's like helping out around the house, and just slowly but surely, Eve starts to just be more and more central to Margot's life, up until slightly sneakily becoming her understudy on the show.
With some sympathetic assistance
Sure.
from Karen.
Yeah. It's like all this stuff where it's like, she's not directly asking for any of this, but it's sort of suspicious how much she's sort of drawing attention to herself, while all the while being like, oh, me, like no one look at me, like I'm nothing.
Yeah.
Until she sort of supplants Margot as the lead of the show, because she's like much younger, she's like very traditionally pretty looking, and everyone's like, oh man, as an actor, she's incredible. It's so raw, such a good performance. And as this is happening, Margot more and more is sort of like, this gal is no good.
Yeah.
And then by like the back half of the movie is like full on, like Eve is actively like trying to seduce Margot's husband. She is like manipulating everyone around her. And then very close to the end of the movie, it is revealed that her entire sob story is made up. She never even lived in San Francisco. She was never married. Her name isn't Eve. It's Gertrude. Gasp. And by doing all this manipulating, somewhat kind of like pushed away all the people that she had made friends with along the way, except for this sort of very snooty theater critic that she is sort of...
Who's also kind of similarly cutthroat.
Also similarly cutthroat, and then he kind of gives her an ultimatum like, you have to stay with me. I own you, because if you try to leave me, I'll tell everyone that you're a con artist, basically. And then, right, the end of the movie is Eve having, sort of gained everything she wanted, but at what cost? Comes back to her apartment, and there's this even younger woman in there who's like, "Oh, me? I just came in here because the door was open. Like, I'm your biggest fan."
Yeah,
And
I'm the head of the fan club at my high school.
Right, and it's like, the cycle begins anew.
Yeah.
But also, right, like, Margot, meanwhile, she's been, like, fighting with Eve for most of the movie. Of, like, she's taken my roles, she's trying to take my life in a very sort of, like, Tom Ripley-esque way. She's, like, trying to kind of become Margot.
Yeah, she starts
Her
putting
idol.
she starts putting on her clothes.
Yeah.
And she starts like wearing a wig that's more like her
yeah.
because of the play.
And then, like, Margot is like, fuck this. I'm rich. I have a great marriage. Why don't I just kind of, like, just live my life?
she is at that crossroads and she chooses to age gracefully.
Yeah.
Right? There's a moment in the movie where Karen recognizes the con artist that Eve is and kind of
There's the bit where Eve is
so
trying to get Karen to convince her husband, the playwright, to give her the role. And her mask kind of starts to slip. And Karen is like, "Oh, you're a psycho."
Yeah. And she puts Karen in this weird situation, and there's like this threat similar to the one that gets put on Eve by the critic of like, I'm going to tell Margot that you helped me supplant her if you don't suggest to your husband that I should be in the play. And there's this whole thing of it's just like, we know Margot wants the part and she doesn't want to give it to Eve.
Yeah.
But then Margot kind of just is suddenly like, you know what? Let Eve take it. I don't care anymore, you know? And it's just like, woo, got out of that situation, you know? The situation that Margot is in through this movie is like an interesting foil to Sunset Boulevard. It's definitely like a bit of a deep impact Armageddon situation for 1950.
I don't know if they're like quite that like one-to-one, but yeah, thematically there is a lot of crossover for sure.
Oh, you were talking about like the writerly parts of this movie, and like the script is just very snappy. It's very snappy
written
script.
and directed by Joseph Mankiewicz, brother
the other Mank,
brother of Herman, right? Or exactly, the other Mank. We can still call him Mank. I guess maybe Joe didn't actually use Mank as a nickname, but you can't have two Manks running around Hollywood. Two Manks don't make a right.
But two Manks make a lot of movies.
Yeah, and like the dialogue in this movie is great. It's not super like lingo heavy the way that I think a lot of other like 40s 50s movies can be.
But it's like full of a bunch of lines that make you go like, ooh.
Yeah, like ooh, that's a good line. Yeah.
I mean, I think one thing that I was kind of remarking on while I was watching this is just like everybody's being really bitchy to each other. You know?
Very bitchy movie. Yeah. Yeah, the amount of like people talking about each other behind each other's backs and sort of like insults that are getting hurled in sneaky ways and like bitchiness for lack of a better term is quite strong.
I mean, like I think that a lot of people really love like, you know, this is one of those beloved by gays movies, you know, and like it's I think because it's bitchy and about Broadway. And also like, you know, Betty Davis and all that.
Sure,
there's like a whole thing going on, but this is not specifically related to bitchiness, cattiness, or whatever. But I was reading that like about other actresses that were considered for Eve, and there was another one who was going to be Daryl Zanuck's choice for Eve, and Mankiewicz said like rejected her because he said that she lacked the bitch virtuosity. And I'm like, you know what? Like, that's kind of what you need for that character, you know?
And I'll, like, well said, and that was the correct choice.
Yeah.
Because I do think, who actually plays Eve?
Anne Baxter.
Anne Baxter, I think, is very good in this movie, in that she is genuinely believable as the sort of, like, incredibly sort of modest, like, nobody look at me.
Yeah.
Like, I'm embarrassed to be here. I'm taking up too much space in the 1 inch of the corner that I'm in.
And then she switches.
And it's that switch where you're like, oh my God, like this woman is a psychopath.
Yeah. There is that moment where she has her friend like call Karen's husband to say Eve is distraught. She's crying. She's like, everything's horrible. You need to go and check on her. And then, like, as soon as she hangs up the phone, the camera moves over to Eve, and you see her just like smiling and sitting on the staircase, like, my master plan is coming together.
But it's like, I don't even Eve, who I think is probably the most like is one of the more antagonistic characters in this movie, is treated as a just a human.
Yeah.
Right. It's like, it's never like, oh, right. She doesn't murder anyone. Like, there's a degree to which I think this movie almost is restrained from like melodrama.
Yeah.
That I think is really makes it play a lot stronger.
Like, she does bad things unrepentantly.
Yeah.
And calculatedly, but also like she does like want, I don't know, like even these people that she's kind of like screwing over, she wants to be their friend still, I think.
Yeah.
You know, I think.
No, I do. Yeah.
And like, you know, it goes back to that awards scene at the beginning where she's like saying thank you to all of these people that she stepped on the way to
that
like,
she's been lying to, and yeah.
Yeah, and then like, you know, she just greets them after she's done. They're all just like, fuck you, Eve. Like, yeah.
Addison, the critic, is like, he's just a huge piece of shit, like through and through.
he's like cynical about the world, and it has like allowed him to become that way.
There's the bit at the end where he kind of gives Eve the ultimatum, and he says, we deserve each other. As he's like, you know, telling her all this stuff, like, you belong to me, I own you. And then she's crying. He's like, I don't understand. He's like, you're pitiful, and yet I'm attracted to you. And he's like, we're both monsters. I guess we deserve to like end up together.
Critics.
Yeah. I mean, that feels like that is kind of part of this movie. It's like, who is the most monstrous character? The critic.
It stinks.
Eve kind of uses him as a means to an end.
And he's like,
to sort of like
I saw through your act the whole time, and now I'm using you too.
Well, right, because he's the one person that actually like follows up on her backstory and is like, that whole thing was a lie. Your entire identity is invented. I think that sort of the way that a lot of the characters in this movie do really mean, nasty, spiteful things, and yet all feel very human, is one thing I was very kind of one of my big takeaways.
Yeah.
Like, there's no, like, Addison is probably the closest thing the movie has to like a villain, but even he's just like an asshole. Like, you know, like he's not a good person.
Yeah.
And I think, yeah, the way that this movie is able to sort of like have these lots of different characters all sort of like be mad at each other and like be doing nasty things to each other at certain points, and then by the end of it, it's like the chips have all fallen in a way where you're like, I'm satisfied where everyone ended up.
Yeah, true.
Even though a lot of them still aren't happy.
Yeah. Yeah, some people got what they deserved, and some people like found a way to move into the situation that they're in at the end of the movie and be at peace with it.
Yeah. Well, like, because there's a period in the movie where Margot starts being really nasty to Eve, where you're just like, Margot, geez, like, calm down. Like, how, like, you hired her, like, you invited her into your life, and now you're just like pissed at her for like being younger than you.
Right. But then she kind of gets over it.
She kind of gets over it, and then Eve is revealed to be a lying psychopath. Yeah. So it's sort of like, all right, I guess, you know, maybe Eve had a point to be nasty to her.
It's interesting to see Margot's process through the movie, you know? Like, she's, like, when we're talking about, like, the crossroads that she's at, and it's like, you're watching her have to confront all of these feelings that are being brought up by people, kind of her realizing and people sort of telling her that she's getting too old. And like, it's a whole nother question of whether that is a valid thing. Like, is she too old to play, like, you know, young characters? Like, you know, maybe, but like, is she too old to exist? Like, everything wants her to say to her. She has to recognize that is not true, but like that is the world that she's living in also. I was watching this with a friend yesterday. She had apparently seen the stage version of Sunset Boulevard, and she was like, this really reminded me of, she was watching All About Eve, and she was like, this really reminded me of this play that I saw. And I was like, was it Sunset Boulevard?
Incredible.
And the other thing that she said, which is one other kind of spare little note about this movie, is she saw this like random background character and was like, "Whoa, she's really hot." And I was like, "That's Marilyn Monroe."
Marilyn Monroe, who I think is really funny in this movie.
Yeah, she's good.
I haven't seen. This might actually be the only Marilyn Monroe movie that I've seen. I think I've seen like assorted scenes from some others, but like, and this is not. I don't think this is her first movie role. She gets like funny stuff to do. Kind of, I guess, kind of playing maybe a somewhat exaggerated version of herself, of a kind of maybe ditzy blonde wannabe actor who is quickly like discarded by like the theater elites.
Right.
She's auditioning for the play that the whole story revolves around and doesn't get it. And then Addison, who's sort of like is shepherding her career, I was like, oh, you can audition for television. And she goes, oh, there are auditions for television? And he goes, television's nothing but auditions. Which is like a really mean way of describing TV.
Yeah. Like, it was interesting seeing that. Like, that the showbiz, or I mean, this is a movie. This is set in Broadway world, but also being made by Hollywood people, and there's a lot of like shit talking that it does about Hollywood too in this movie, which I think is like coming from the perspective of stage people or whatever. Now that we're beginning to see the kind of like existential threat of television to the movies, we're getting to see movies take little pot shots at TV, which I think is kind of interesting.
Yeah.